Everyone wants to live an inspired life, yet so many people search for happiness following the footsteps of peers and taking advice from people who have different values and outcomes to which they're searching. There are people born into wealth, graduated from the best universities in the world, and there are people who have none of that and yet are living extraordinary lives full of fulfillment and reward. The purpose of this podcast is to share insights and strategies that allow you to question the status quo and think freely, so you can design your life and be who you want to be. We get one life. Time is our most valuable asset. I believe that when we're free and able to focus on meaningful work, we become better human beings. This is Always Free, and I'm your host, Jason Greystone.
Welcome to the leading podcast for financial empowerment and wealth creation. Subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss an episode. You can connect with Jason on social media and subscribe to the Jason Greystone YouTube channel for weekly videos. Don't forget to also subscribe to the weekly newsletter to receive frequent educational content and action steps to help you design your life so you can be who you want to be. For news on all future events and updates, go to jasongreystone.com.
So today we've got Fanny Snaith from the newsletter. You probably recognise her name from the Always Free newsletter. And today she's featuring on the Always Free podcast. So it's great to have you on, Fanny. Thanks for coming.
Hiya, nice to be here.
Yeah, just tell us, for those who don't know you, just talk a little bit about kind of your background and I guess why you're in the financial space.
I am in the financial space, but as a money coach and not working in financial services, and I'm really very proud of that. And I'm in the financial space because I've always enjoyed money, really, or money's always been a very important part of my life. I watched my mum fritter, lose a big inheritance when I was a little girl.
Yeah.
And where I was born into a wealthy family, a very wealthy family, it was pretty miserable because mum had husbands that were sort of spending it for her. I then went off to a posh boarding school and became the pauper, which was really interesting. So all of a sudden I thought I was really wealthy, but I was really poor. And then my second stepfather decided to give away all my mum's money because he was blackmailed.
Wow.
So had to come out of boarding school very quickly and into the local comprehensive, where they all thought I was the rich kid. But actually I was really poor. So I've had this big...
A bit like Instagram, yeah.
Well, it's this big swing of, happy rich, happy poor, unhappy rich, unhappy poor.
Yep.
I've sort of done everything. But I do remember that when my stepfather gave away all our money to a blackmailer, I decided then that I would never be beholden to anybody for money and that I would become a millionaire. And that was said at the age of 10 in the free school meals queue at school.
Wow.
After coming out of boarding school.
It's interesting that you say that there's rich, happy people, poor, happy people. And that's kind of the reason I took the route I took on figuring out how to buy time. Because it was, I met lots of people that had loads of money, but they were stressed because they had to continually work. And then there was people that had no money and they thought that they wanted a job to earn more money, but really no one was kind of looking at it the right way. It was about how much money you've got relative to your living expenses. That was really what it boiled down to. And even to this day, people always ask me, how do you seem to, have this balance? And really it's just because I focus on buying time first. And I think that makes you happy. If you've got time, you can choose. So how did you then change and, what did you set? So, what were the rules that you...
Well, the rules were, the other thing that's interesting, and this is why I love my work as a money coach and probably how I came to it, because my challenge was to become a millionaire. Mm-hmm. So how was I going to do that? And my initial thought, my big way of doing it was to collect money.
Yeah.
I thought that's...
Hoard.
Well, that's what you've got to do, isn't it?
Yeah.
You just got to collect money.
Every penny.
I went out and got a job at the age of sort of 11 and put money aside from every single wage packet I ever had. Now, the thing is, my dad, whose middle name we gave him was Perfectly Adequate, he didn't like spending money at all, ever. So he would have shoelaces that were sort of tied together, they weren't always in one big long strip. He'd have sort of belts holding up trousers that were too big and trousers with holes in, and we'd have chairs held together with string and all that, because everything was like, it's perfectly adequate.
Is this the rich dad?
Did I have a rich dad?
Oh, I just
no, I never
assumed
had a
that-
rich
yeah,
dad.
Right, okay.
No, well, my dad he worked for the BBC the whole of his life.
Right.
He retired on something like 26 grand.
Okay.
But had a lifetime pension, but had quite a good bit of wealth. But he didn't like spending any money. But on the flip side, he'd go and buy an antique saucer and teacup for 700 quid.
Right.
It's very strange. But all of this is important because I firmly believe that the kind of messages that you receive from the people around you when you're children totally and utterly affect how you are around money as an
Absolutely.
adult.
Yeah.
Totally. So on the one hand, I had my dad who didn't want to spend anything. And on the opposite side, I had my mum who we lived in the biggest private house on the Isle of Wight at the time. And she just wanted to spend. So I was having all these confusing messages. So there I was thinking, but we haven't got any money anymore. So what am I going to do? So I started collecting it, and I just collected and I collected and I collected and I collected and put it in the bank. But when I got to about 18, my dad probably did me the best favour he could ever do. I'd been borrowing bits of money for him when I was at college. Because whereas I'd been collecting, I wasn't seriously collecting it at this point because there wasn't anything really to collect.
No.
And when I went into college and couldn't work, I started borrowing bits of money from him, 10 quid here, 20 quid there, etc.
Yep.
And I found it a bit embarrassing asking him for money. So I thought, what I'll do is I'll ask him for £1,000. Right?
Yeah.
I'll ask him for
Go straight
£1,000
in.
all in one go.
Yeah.
So I said, please can I borrow £1,000? He said, yes, you can. But you have to pay me back the £846.23 that you already owe me. And I went, oh, but I haven't got the £846.23. And he goes, I know, but if I lend you the £1,000, you'll owe me even more, and that'll be even more difficult to pay back. So with my tail between my legs, I sort of sloped away without the grand, paid back the £846.26 as quickly as I possibly could, and never asked him again. And I think he did me the best favour he could have done, because at that point I learnt you've just got to be able to stand on your own 2 feet. You've got to be responsible.
So true. On that, I mean, one thing that blows me away is people that kind of go to the bank or people that come to you to borrow money, for instance, and they think that people with money will lend you the money when really, they're the last person you want to ask, because people with money are smart and they know that you've probably been turned away from every other. They know that you can't afford to pay it back, right? Because they're just doing the same risk management than a bank would do. And he definitely done you a favour.
He definitely did me a favour.
If you didn't have the money and you couldn't pay him back.
And it's really interesting if I look at the difference in the financial situation between my sister and myself, as I know she won't be listening to this.
Why not?
I've tried, Jason, I've tried. He used to bail her out all the time. He used to say, here we are, darling, have another 20 quid here. And you only have to look at our different financial situations.
It's funny that, I can.
So I thank him greatly. But I went on and I just sort of carried on, really, of just thinking I am going to I don't want to have anybody control my money life.
No.
I want to be in total control.
Would you say you become a bit obsessed with money then?
Absolutely. I'm going to talk about the money types in a bit, which I've been writing about in your newsletter. But I definitely became my warrior, which is the archetype of action. The money type of action was definitely there, but it definitely turned into tyrant. How much was enough? Very controlling over it.
Do you think you've still got that kind of obsession? I
know where my tyrant is, and I know when he comes out to play, but I also know how to slap him back into the corner.
Okay, so
that's what you need to learn, because they never go away.
No, of course. We all own every trait, I believe.
We all own all of the money types are within us, and they can come out to play when we least expect them to.
Absolutely. I find it funny when people say, "Oh, you're always so and so," or "You're never this, never that." We've all got every trait.
We have. It just depends how often they come.
Yeah, exactly. So tell us a little bit about the money types then, because I know you talk about this in the newsletter. If you could just briefly kind of run through the list so the listeners could probably relate to which one they are.
Well, first of all, I think what's really important to say is that money seems to be, for so many of us, just about numbers, and it really, really isn't. And it was only when I started out as a money coach and put spreadsheets in front of my first customers, when I saw their eyes glaze over and I thought, they're just not getting this, are they? They're not wanting to do this. It was then I realised that I needed to try and find out some more. And I came across the Money Coaching Institute in America, run by a lovely lady called Deborah Price. And she had come up with 8 money types. So I went, I signed up with her and I trained at the Money Coaching Institute for a year, doing individual coaching and couples coaching and business archetype coaching, or learning how to do it.
And now you're a certified money coach.
Yeah. Now I'm a certified money coach and couples coach, which is the work that I really, really love. That's the work I love. But she introduced me to these money types, and whereas I would absolutely love them to be my IP, she invented them, so I have to credit her. But basically, they are 8 different characters who all behave very, very differently around money.
Okay, so run us through them.
Okay, so we've got the innocent, the victim, the warrior, the martyr, the fool, the creator artist, the tyrant, and the magician.
Okay, could you just repeat those again?
Yeah, the innocent, the victim, the warrior, the martyr, the fool, the creator artist, the tyrant, and the magician.
Okay, so give us a bit of an insight into it.
So, innocent, head in the sand. I don't know what to do. I want somebody to come and look after my financial life for me. Remember Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz?
Yep.
So she get hooked up with Tin Man, the lion and the scarecrow, off to find the wizard to find all the answers in life. But what she actually realised was all she had to do was click her heels together and all the answers were within her.
Yeah.
The innocent's very much like that. So an innocent's parents will possibly have told a child that you're rubbish with money, you're never going to be any good at money and all this kind of stuff.
Okay.
So they'll want to be rescued and they'll want somebody else to do it for them. Or if things get tough, it's much easier to put their unopened bank statement in the drawer rather than open it up and face it.
Yep, got it. I know a few of those.
Yeah. But remember, the archetypes are where we are, not who we are.
Okay.
So I've met people who have had their innocent very much out to play, but through coaching with me, I have helped them to bring their warrior to the fore and their magician to the fore and put the innocent back in the... If you think about it like driving a car, we want the warrior to be driving the car because he's the money type of action, we'll do that in a minute, and the magician to be on his side, and the rest of them we want them in the boot, basically.
Okay, so tell us about the rest then.
So the victim.
Yep.
Well, the victim is the one who's tried everything, done everything, nothing ever works, it's never my fault, it's always a nightmare. Chances are the victim has actually had a lot of pain in their lives and they have actually probably been through a hard time. But the key to putting the victim back in the boot is to just process that pain, to actually go through what happened, say, yep, it happened, and to move on.
Right.
But the victim, loves to live in his story. It's quite an exciting story, probably more exciting than the story they're living in now. So it's, by me telling my story and going, my mum was married 3 times by the time I was in, it's all really awful, and I was born rich and then I was poor. I could play on that, but that isn't really going to do me any good.
No.
So we need to process that, which I believe that I've done, and then we move on.
Got it.
So that's the victim.
And what's the next one?
The warrior.
The warrior.
Yeah, the archetype of action. So we have children, and we look to our parents, hopefully, to try and teach us about finances. And I don't know, you might be doing it with Harrison now, about teaching him your trade and teaching him about money.
Well, Harrison's here today.
And Harrison's here today. Hello, Harrison. Hello. But the warrior will very likely have been taught about money by their parents. Father might have been into the markets or whatever and taught them about income tax and earning and stocks and shares, etc. But the warrior will have picked up on that and thought, right, where am I going to go? So my warrior very much came out when I was 10 and I decided that I was going to be a millionaire and not be beholden to anybody for money. I was taking action all the time. I was monitoring my money. I remember when I was travelling around Australia and I earned a lot of money, and then I did a trip part, and I would count my money every day and divide it by the number of days I had left.
Yeah.
So that's how, because I wasn't going to be earning anymore. So I was literally budgeting every day. But it's about taking action. It's about and also warriors tend to motivate other people into it as well, which so I would have thought, Jason, you've got a very strong warrior and I've got a very strong warrior.
Yeah. Okay. So would you say I'm a warrior?
I would say you're a warrior. The warriors have to be a little bit careful sometimes that you don't go into over-warrior in the fact that you think you sort of know everything and you think you can sort everything out on your own. You've still got to be able to look at people and see them as helpers rather than go and slice their heads off.
So still have a bit of vulnerability about you.
Definitely.
Yeah, I've definitely got that.
Definitely.
Okay, so what's the next? What's after the warrior?
The martyr.
The martyr. I enjoyed reading about the martyr.
We love the martyr. The archetype of service, who is constantly looking after everybody else but themselves. I think I told the story of Sally, wasn't it, who was the multi-level marketer, who thought it was best to, when she met these victims, she come across a victim. Victims and martyrs go well together. Oh, have you had a really bad time?
Yeah.
Let me try, I can sort out a business for you. You start selling this and it's all going to be wonderful. But the martyr is constantly looking after everybody else but themselves. So
extremely altruistic, has got no, completely looking out for other people, and then ends up disempowered because he's got nothing.
Ends up disempowered, ends up disappointed, ends up resentful.
Yep.
Ooh, nice and bitter.
Yep.
Yeah, not very helpful when it comes to money, really.
No. Okay.
So the martyr's not great. And then we have the fool. I love the fool. We've all got to have a bit of fool in us. Because if we don't have any fool, we won't have any risk.
Yeah, this is an entrepreneur kind of.
It is, but in the positive side, the fool is Richard Branson.
Yeah.
On the negative side, the fool is leaping for every deal, shirt off his back, borrowing money,
chasing shiny objects,
chasing shiny objects, borrowing on deals that he has absolutely no idea how they're going to play out. You could have a trader without any back testing, 10 grand in the back, no stop loss, 10 grand on, let's give it one go. Woohoo, let's have fun. Yeah, so that's your fool.
Okay.
Creator artist is the next one. We need a little bit of creator artist because it's the creativity, but have you ever come across those sort of tree huggers? They might say, I've got a really, really good business, but I'm giving away 6-month trial for free.
Yeah.
And I don't really need to earn any money. That's a classic of the creator artist. Money's not really important to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't really need any money.
No.
It's not important to me.
Yeah.
However, they are the ones that tend to be most conflicted. Because they sort of look at that lovely Apple laptop that you've got and go, I'd quite like one of those. But actually money's not important to them, so they're never going to get enough money.
They set up a conflict in their own head that they can't have the things that they want.
That's it. So they get really conflicted. And it's a lot of it's really interesting when people come to coach with me, and people who come to work with me generally they might have a bit of debt, but they have wealth. By session 3, most creator artists will ask me the question, am I normal? Because they feel they can't find themselves fitting in to the world around them. They just can't seem to work it out, because on one minute they'd like to be a landscape gardener, but the next minute they want to have £1 million in the bank.
Yeah.
And they know that the two will never match.
Yeah.
So they look around their friends and they sort of go, oh, I quite like the sort of lifestyle he's got, but I don't want to do that. And,
very interesting.
And a self-worth issue comes up, and it's I don't know whether I should say this really, but I find that a lot of creator artists have teachers as parents.
Right. Really? That's really
School
interesting.
teachers as parents. That's been my experience so far.
Wow. Very interesting. So if you're listening to this,
and that's not to say that every teacher's child is a creator artist, but it's been quite interesting that they've been teachers of some sort.
So what's the next one?
What is the next one? Oh, the Tyrant.
The Tyrant.
I work with quite a lot of tyrants.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Which is interesting because...
Are you a tyrant?
I have a tyrant side.
Yeah.
I have a tyrant side when I can become a bit controlling. But you see, also a martyr can be controlling as well.
Yeah.
So, but I have recognised the tyrant in myself. Never enoughness is typical tyrant.
Never enoughness.
Never
right.
enoughness.
That's
Nothing
the primary trait of a tyrant.
Never enoughness. You want to be like me? Look at me, aren't I fantastic? I've got loads of money.
Oh wow.
Come and join my team. You're just jealous of me, aren't you? But actually, they're the people with the biggest insecurities, really.
Wow. Yeah.
Underneath, and their biggest thing is fear of being alone.
Right.
So they will, buy situations, buy friends. It's a really tricky one.
Wow.
And I have found as well, so people who have inherited quite a bit of wealth, they tend to go either way. They can go into tyrant, which is a way of masking their lack of trust around who's my friend, who's not my friend. Or they can go the other way and go right into creator artist.
Right.
And say, I don't know, where the hell do I fit in this world? I've got this money, but actually I'd really like to be a landscape gardener.
Yeah.
Whatever. I pick a landscape gardener. There can be some very wealthy landscape gardeners. So
I just think you can be wealthy if you if you understand what it is that really drives you and you go after it. That you'll earn loads of money, doing whatever you want to do.
So you're talking about the magician, conveniently, which is the money type that we would all love to be.
Yeah.
With the warrior by our side and the creator artist in the back seat and the others in the boot. But the magician is the money type of faith, trust and balance. So the magician very likely will have lived through parts of all the other archetypes.
Yeah.
So they've learned lots and lots of life lessons. So they've wanted to put their head in the sand and they've looked a warrior and they haven't. They've probably done some really few dumb deals like the Fool. Fools make brilliant magicians and warriors when they are taught
when
how
they've
to
been polished up.
When they've been polished up, yeah. So they've seen, they can see the tyrant for who it is and just go, look, just be yourself and stop trying to impress everybody and work out when enough is enough.
Yeah.
So it's all about the balance, and I think that so many people now, when we're talking about personal development and we're talking about where we want to be in life. So if we talk about ego, right? So we say when we're born, we've got a clean hard drive, right? Mm-hmm. And then as soon as we start putting information into it, we start developing our personality, and our personality is basically our ego. And we can be in just as much under ego as we are over ego. So tyrant is going to be very much in over ego. But you can also have, I don't like looking at myself in the mirror, I don't like myself, I hate myself, that's under ego. Mm-hmm. What we are all striving for, I believe, is the balanced eye. Is the balanced eye.
So the all-seeing eye, enlightenment.
However, we must also know that to be able to stay in such a straight line, the balanced eye, is impossible. So we have to recognise that when we're going to stray from the balance, either under or over, but then be able to be with it enough to bring ourselves back on track. Yep.
So for me, mastery, if you like, or staying within that balance is about being able to identify when you're out of oscillation as quickly as possible. The quicker you can do it and the quicker you can neutralise a fear or anything, that's how you stay balanced, and the quicker you can do that, the quicker you can be enlightened, if you like. Yeah. I'm not saying I'm enlightened by any means, but I hope to be one day.
Well, aren't we all a bit? I think we are a bit enlightened, aren't we? In our journeys, we're very lucky people.
Oh, there's still a lot of chaos in my life, believe that.
But the thing is, don't you think there probably always will be?
Yeah, of course, but it's how you kind of approach and deal with the situations.
It is, but even Buddhist monks who sit there meditating all day, I think they still have some chaos in their lives. It's just how we deal with it, isn't it? Yeah. I think it's just how we deal with it.
So when you was talking about, you say that you're losing the obsession with money and that the unhealthy obsession with money that you had, where you was kind of hoarding money. I always get, people always come to me and talk about being a millionaire, and they want to be a millionaire, and they got it fixated in their head because there's Forbes rich lists and everything seems to be measured on net worth and all the rest of it. Are you a millionaire now, firstly?
My net worth is above $1 million,
right.
Yes.
So tell me, what happened the day that happened?
Nothing. It was hilarious. By the way, I married a man who's completely detached from money.
Yeah.
So he has no interest in money. I probably chose him for that purpose. And that was when my Tyrant came out, because he's plumber heating engineer, and I decided that he was going to have a much more successful business than he had.
Right.
Yeah.
So you projected onto him.
I completely projected
your
onto
fantasies.
him my fantasies about how we were going to have a really successful plumbing and heating business. All he wanted to do was go and earn money and then go travelling. I came and really put the kibosh on that. But so the day that on my little spreadsheet of net worth, when the seventh figure appeared, I turned to him and I went, Neil, we've done it. We've got the seventh figure, the millionaire. And he turned around to me and he said, well, it's got nothing to do with me, has it? And I was so disappointed. And I remember that was really when I thought, I have to change my life.
Yeah.
And that was the beginning. I was getting to my midlife crisis. I was getting near to my 50th birthday. I was really fed up with my job, working from home, never meeting anybody, and I thought my life has now got to change. And that was really the beginning of my journey to wanting to become a money coach.
Yeah.
Because I thought, what is the point of me sitting here, got the cash in the bank? It's not doing anything.
No.
This money was just sitting there stagnating. I mean, yeah, it was invested in, I had an investment portfolio, etc., and the pension was growing, but it was pretty...
Yeah. You didn't feel like you was fulfilled in what you was doing.
Absolutely not.
No.
Absolutely
Very,
not.
very common. People have got this thing about millionaire status and they don't... And again, going back to my statement about, it's just about being liquid and free to do what you want, I think, to really then excel and get that balance of passion and reward and fulfillment.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I suppose for me as well, because I mean, I'll be looking at things through different eyes than you, because obviously I'm older than you are, so I'm at a different stage in my life.
You don't look older than me.
Well, that's very kind of you to say. Well, I am.
I think I've had a harder life.
No, I wouldn't. I'm not prepared to give over my secrets of how to look. It's not recordable. Anyway, the thing is, I'm at a different stage in my life now. And I look at things slightly differently, and I know for one thing I could look backwards and I could have some regrets, but I'm not going to do that. And I encourage people who come to work with me of a similar age to not do the same, because there are so many things. There has never been better opportunities out there to grow wealth.
This is true.
From wherever you are, whatever job you have, with whatever education you have, because everything is available to you on the internet. All you need is motivation, drive, mindset, whatever.
My newsletter.
And your newsletter.
And
I love
podcast.
your newsletter.
I know. You're a contributor to the newsletter.
I know, but it's a fantastic newsletter. It's a really good newsletter.
Okay, so when talking about the money types, I take it there's a way that you help people kind of get the right balance of each, or if they've identified themselves as one, they can go and kind of alleviate themselves.
I think the first thing to point out is that why would people even bother about thinking about the money types?
Yeah.
And this is important because, read your newsletter and, sign up to tier 1 trading, etc. And I know that there are lots of people out there who they're troubled when it comes to money and they can't really work out why.
Mm-hmm.
So you might have let's say for instance, you might have a financial advisor. I'm going for an extreme now, right? You've got a financial advisor who 17, 18 years old, wanted to, be a financial advisor and went and learned all the tricks of the trade. That has absolutely no correlation with how good he is with his own personal money, right? Because the thing is, he still had the same messages from his parents and will still have the same beliefs that any one of us could have. And just because he's learned about investing other people's money, and actually, back in the day, the bosses used to say to the financial advisors, well, you've earned $1,000, go and spend 3. Because there's plenty more where that's coming from.
That's a big strategy in sales.
Exactly.
In hard sales.
Yeah. So, salespeople then in general will come to me with...
I'm talking like boiler room sales, like... Hitting the phones,
But, people will come to me with feeling guilty and ashamed that they haven't got any money and they've been earning a lot of money for a very long time and they haven't got any money, but they don't understand why. So the next step is to work out why and look back at their history, find out who mum and dad were or their carers were, look at their money story. I know it's sort of quite a trendy thing to talk about money story, but I spend a lot of time with people on their money story. It's not just a quick exercise. And we go through the money story and I'm sitting there looking for messages that they received, beliefs that they received, but I'm looking for patterns, subconscious patterns. And once we've got those patterns, it's still sometimes quite difficult for my coachee to see what's going on. And that's when I bring the money types in. Because the money types are a fantastic way of taking something, externalizing a problem.
Yeah.
So you go, right, so do you, look what you just did there. Do you see that was Tyrant? And they look at me and they sort of go, sort of. So I go, well, hang on a minute, let's just look at this. And what we do is we take the behaviour and we pin it on the tyrant. We blame it on somebody else. Yeah. And they can then look at that problem in outside of themselves. We can then use all the tips and tricks to try and counteract it. We've got various different exercises to go through, and then they go, now I see what's going on. And then we can bring it back and internalise it with new steps on how to recognise that behaviour in the future and how to fix it as you're going along.
Excellent. And what's the kind of result that they get from working with you? What's the ultimate?
Confidence around money is the big one. Confidence, empowerment, drive, just knowledge as well, obviously, because once they've realised that they don't have to feel miserable and fearful and guilty and ashamed. I call it fags, addicted to fags. Fear, anger, guilt and shame. They're the four that come up. So they can quit the fags and work on wealth. I quite like that. That sounded quite good. Quit the fags and work on wealth.
So, just to kind of start wrapping things up then, if someone was listening to this and they're in a real crap state with money, what would be your number one piece of advice to start getting control and accumulating? What would you do first if you really had, you was really struggling or you kind of had no plan?
If you've got no plan, the first thing I would think about is what do you want out of life? Try and find a purpose and try and find a why. And it's not really just good enough to say, I don't want to feel like this. Don't think about what you don't want, think about what you do want. So is it that you want to clear all your debts? Is it that you want to feel more confident about money? Is it that you want to buy a house? And once you've got a little inkling, a little piece of sunshine that you can look at, something that you want, it's then working out how you're going to get there. And if it's your mindset and the way that you're feeling around money that is stopping you, i.e. you're telling you, well, I'm never going to earn enough money to do that, that's a belief. Or you're not managing your money at all. Why aren't you managing your money? Because you're fearful about looking at it. Try and work out what the hurdle is, what the barrier is to you actually moving closer to that point. And that's the first thing to fix. I mean, some of the people that talk to me, who ring me, thinking that they've got fears and beliefs, etc., when I actually spend half an hour with them, it's literally, if I can just introduce them to an app like Money Dashboard, they're off and they don't need money coaching. So it could simply just be knowledge. But if you really are having those feelings around money that you can't do it, or it's never going to happen to you, or you feel that you should never be wealthy, or you're not quite sure which world you fit in, you could go and take the money type quiz on my website as a start, but just try and focus, think inside the box and work out what the hurdle is that's stopping you and start addressing that.
And what kind of action would you recommend that they take once they've, to physically start building up some cash?
Start tracking their money. There's got to be tracking first of all. If you're not doing anything, you've got to stop the bleeding. Yeah. It's a simple sum. If you're spending more than you earn, it's not going to work. No. It's like the same thing. If you're eating too many donuts, you're not going to fit into the trousers that you bought a year ago.
I know.
It's exactly the same, and it's so simple, but this is why it's difficult, because it has so many emotions and so many other things attached to it.
100% agree. I've already spoken, I think, last week about it's really simple. You know, to lose weight, you consume less calories than you burn, and with money, it's you spend
But
less.
it's it's interesting, isn't it? I think I wrote in one of the newsletters about we've got shelves groaning with motivational personal development books, and yet we're still going out and buying more, and we're still struggling with it.
Yep.
So it is a constant thing that goes on. Our minds just play so many tricks with us. What clever things they are.
I know. They're very, very complex. So what kind of, you mentioned money dashboard, have you got any other tips like that people can go, like any tips, tools, tricks, life hacks?
So
websites?
I think probably one of the biggest things that people come to me with cash flow problems. So people have cash flow problems within their business, and people have cash flow problems within at home. The number of people that comes to the 14th of December and they slap their hands on the forehead and go, "Oh my God, it's Christmas in 2 weeks' time! I forgot about that."
Yeah.
And it's like, and then they spend $3,000 on Christmas and wonder why they haven't got the money. So what I like to do with people is I split money into 4 pots. So we have a pot for direct debits and standing orders, keeps them all so you know exactly how many they are, and subscriptions, that kind of thing.
Yep.
We have a pot for savings, financial freedom, etc.
Yep.
We have a pot called the purse or the wallet, which is variable expenses, food, petrol, sorts of things that you know roughly how much you're spending every month, but you need it just to be ready cash coming in and out. But then we have the magic account called the bunker. And the bunker is the pot whereby we take all our expenses like Christmas, holidays, birthdays, your car insurance if you pay it annually, and any other things you pay annually, and we add them all up, divide them by 12, and put money aside every month, so that when the event comes, you just dip into the bunker. And I would like to say, Starling Bank, and I know there are lots of others that are coming up to it now, but Starling Bank is the perfect bank for a bunker.
You just set the goals, right?
Well, it's got these things called spaces.
I think they're called goals, aren't they?
No, well, they're called. You can have up to as many spaces as you want.
Yeah, it's great. I've set them all up.
But there's spaces, and then you just put money in the different spaces, and you can see money coming in and going out. Because that was the difficulty of trying to run the bunker. But Starling do it very well. I think even Monzo are doing it now.
Monzo do the same thing. Yeah.
So it's happening. It's for once. Banking's going in the right direction.
I know.
For once.
And with Starling Bank, you open the bank, you can open multiple business accounts if you want, and within 2 days max, you've got the cards, you've got them on your Apple Wallet. You don't even need the cards anymore.
No.
It's just seamless.
Yeah. Although I would also say that it is proven that people spend more on cards than they do with cash.
Yeah, because it's not real.
So exactly, and with contactless, it's even worse.
Yeah.
So be careful. And I would, there are some people that come to me and actually they go back to a cash system for a little while. They go back to envelopes and cash, and it's horrific.
Yeah.
However, it doesn't half show you what you're spending.
Oh yeah. So what about? Is there any other tools like you mentioned? Money Dashboard.
Money Dashboard, I'm a big fan of. I use an app called, very creatively, it's called Spending Tracker.
Okay.
To track cash.
Yep. The links for all these will be in the description of this podcast.
It's got a picture of a little brown wallet. So just tracking cash, because if you use cash a lot, that's the thing that can disappear.
Yeah.
You've taken 500 quid cash out. Oh yeah, but I've kept all my budgets. But where's the 500 quid for the cash gone?
Yeah.
One thing I would say about Money Dashboard, because couples coaching is my favourite, the work I really love. Money Dashboard's brilliant for transparency between couples.
Right. So
because you can set it up and you can both log in.
Yeah.
And because it's obviously you can't actually make any transactions there.
No, so it's secure.
It's secure. It's it's completely transparent, and what tends to happen with couples is you'll have one person doing the finances and the other one not doing so much.
Yeah, unless you're a power couple.
Unless you're a power couple, but people don't tend to come to me for power couples. But I'll usually have warrior turned into tyrant.
Yeah.
or martyr.
Victim.
Well, you know, who's going to do it if I don't do it? And then an innocent who will then turn into a victim because it's like, oh no, you know, it's always he always does it, and it's like, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
So Money Dashboard's brilliant with that because the person who wants to put their head in the sand or doesn't feel they can do it, they can sit quietly and watch and learn by themselves.
Yeah.
And it triggers good new behaviour, nice new things.
Definitely.
On the third money story that they have between them.
Really cool. Okay, well, thanks for coming on, Fanny. Just
Pleasure.
before we go, how can everyone reach you? I know if they've read the newsletter, they know, but just let us know where they can find you.
Oh yeah, sure. So you can find me on LinkedIn, Fanny Snaith. Just there's not many of me about. I'm lucky. I've got one of those names that there aren't many of us. I'm on Facebook. I've got a Certified Money Coach Facebook there. I've also got a private group, closed group on Facebook called the Money Mastery Club.
Yep.
And I run challenges and all that sort of thing. It's a closed group for people who really want to change their finances.
Yeah,
their
I'm in
financial
there, aren't
situation. Oh yeah,
You did the buffer and the.
I did the spring challenge.
Yeah, the spring challenge.
That's all up on YouTube now. And then I've got my website, of course, which is www.fannysnaith.com.
And that's where they can go and do the money types.
And that's where you can go and do the money type quiz and have a look and see which archetypes have come out to play today.
Really good. Well, thanks for coming on, Fanny.
Pleasure.
And until next week, guys, have a great rest of your day and weekend, and I'll see you then.
Subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss an episode. For news on all future events and updates, go to jasongreystone.com.